Hello, my name is Danielle Daya, and I'm a student at Arizona State University. And for my signature assignment, I will be discussing my future goals as an educational studies major here at ASU. You might be curious who I am, and I will tell you. My name's Danielle, and I'm the youngest of 4 children. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, I am a lover of animals and an avid learner and traveler. Additionally, I am an alumni of Fairfield University, where I received a Bachelor of Arts in Educational Studies in the summer of 2019. Currently, I'm an Arizona State University Educational Studies major. My professional goal is to pursue a career in school psychology. I believe that it is important to recognize one's strengths as well as one's weaknesses. So within this slide, although I am underscoring my strengths, I will also touch upon my weaknesses. Starting with strengths, I pride myself in my organizational abilities. I am very notorious amongst anyone that knows me for color coding my notes. I'm very strict in where I file things, and I like to keep things in their correct places. I find that it limits time lapsed and fueled by worry looking for other things. On another note, I'm empathetic. It is with this empathy that I formerly pursued nursing studies at Fairfield University my freshman year into my sophomore year. I've always wanted to help others, but just lacked the understanding of how I'd like to help others. And after much soul searching, I am happy with my decision to pursue an educational studies major. I want to help learners and create a positive learning environment where they can thrive and receive the necessary supports they need in order to do so. Every learner is capable, and every learner needs to be given the opportunity to prove themselves. And that is why I want to make sure there isn't any gaps in educational equity, at least within my school. And then, of course, the macro system. I want to influence policy change at some point. That is also very near and dear to me. I'm an efficient and coherent communicator. My grandfather always commented on how clearly I enunciate and speak my mind, and told me that this is one of my greatest attributes. So as I say this, I smile in remembering him. I am a very patient figure. I don't believe that one should rush a product. I believe that coming to the finish line takes time, and it's important to be understanding of that and really try to gauge what needs to be done in order to get there. As such, I'm a creative problem solver. I combine my creativity in arts with my love of logic and applying theory to try to solve anything, really. I think of problems not as much in a negative light, but as opportunities to learn and grow. And with that, I hope to carry this throughout my lifespan in making informed decisions. Daniel Goleman is a psychologist and author of the New York Times bestseller Emotional Intelligence. Goleman is also a co-founder of the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, originally located at the Yale Child Studies Center and now located at the University of Illinois at Chicago. The goal of the center is to introduce emotional literacy to schools around the world. social intelligence is crucial throughout the lifespan. His 5-competency model of emotional intelligence includes 4 critical quadrants: self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. I have always known myself to be very empathetic with others, striving to assist and help anyone navigate the hurdles of daily life. It is with that empathy I initially sought out nursing as a profession, and it is with that empathy that I so wish to help as many students as possible in the academic setting. Empathy is essential throughout the lifespan and allows for more meaningful relationships as well as better self-regulation skills. It also allows us to see life through another's perspective and try to understand where they're coming from. Empathy can drive an increase in helpful assisting behaviors. I'd like to talk about my results. Although I scored an 11 on self-awareness, I do truly feel in sync with myself. The 11 symbolizes that there is some room for development in this regard. I am able to recognize possible triggers to an emotion and understand my shortcomings when dealing with conflict resolution. This has allowed me to limit escalation of fights with friends and in turn ameliorated the quality of our friendships. In addition, I can comprehend how my behavior might impact others within my microsystem. This allows me to see the consequences to my actions and think critically before leaping into the arms of my charged emotions. Instead, I practice mindfulness and refrain from responding when in a negative mindset. If I feel a charged emotion, I wait 10 seconds before responding. This has greatly decreased the amount of frivolous arguments within my interpersonal relationships. As a result, my self-management has increased. It is important to consider swifting through the many emotions of life. I've learned this previously, and it's really stuck out to me to look at emotions as temporary states. This allows me to view previous emotional states that have too passed with time. The realization will allow one to smoothly navigate through a difficult event without letting it hinder one's mindset and performance. Due to the fact that I am in tune with my emotions, I am also able to recognize the emotional states of others. This allows me to intervene immediately and help others swift as well. I believe that there is an empathy deficit that is occurring globally. But first, I'd like to share what Granville de Souza 2011 noted regarding empathy. Granville de Souza 2011 shares, empathy allows us to enter into an encounter with strangers or to recognize and respond appropriately to people's feelings and concerns on page 227. I believe that the empathy deficit present globally is a result of the McDonaldization of society, a sociological phenomenon coined by prominent sociologist George Ritzer in 1993. George Ritzer explains that McDonaldization of society occurs when a society, its institutions, and its organizations are adapted to have characteristics that are found in fast food chains. These characteristics include efficiency, calculability, predictability, standardization, and control. Increased efficiency decreases the amount of time spent on a task and may contribute to a lack of collaboration and social contact. There are consequences to this McDonaldization of America. Our values, preferences, goals, identities, and social relationships are greatly challenged and changing. This effect on our macro system trickles down and in turn affects our microsystem. The McDonaldization of society increases emphasis on the principles of efficiency and calculability, in turn making them our central values. This affects how we interact and think, which can impact our interpersonal relationships. McDonaldization created suburban sprawl with increased housing developments in suburban and rural areas. These communities are dispersed in low-density land, leading to increased traffic, travel time, stress, and air pollution. Additionally, our community values decrease, leading to limited social interaction and acknowledgement of our overall neighbors. There no longer is that one central neighborhood spot where citizens congregate to interact with each other. The way we socialize has greatly changed with the advancements of smart technology limiting our in-person meetups. With the decline of community values, individualism ran rampant as people turned to the internet in order to meet others. Our American school systems focus on IQ, which measures intellect, when they should be considering emotional intelligence as an additive to the core curriculum. Empathy is a critical skill throughout the lifespan. It allows us to help others and ourselves regulate emotions, which promotes stronger social connections. As a school psychologist, I will have to put myself in the shoes of my students and teachers alike. These students are diverse learners with unique experiences. There is not one uniform way to handle a case. Each case is specific to the individual, and I must learn from my students as they learn from me. I must maintain objectiveness and resist the desire to make a judgment. It is important that I am able to understand my students and in turn provide them with the help that they need to thrive inside and outside of an academic setting. According to Granville de Sousa 2011, the first step to emotional literacy is to identify and label our own feelings and to gauge the feelings in others. Page 38. It is important to recognize others' emotional states and the levels of intensity attributed to them. When we are able to recognize these features, we are best able to pinpoint our own emotions. It is important to understand emotions as on a spectrum, differing in level and intensity. It also allows for efficient and clear communication if we understand our own emotions as well as others' emotions, leading to communications in meaningful ways. I found it interesting that when naming a feeling, we must try to name other feelings under the same feeling. When I completed the first activity of Chapter 1, I noticed that most of my sentences were positive in tone. I seldom chose a negative emotion. Moreover, the sentences I constructed focused intensely on helping others and solving their problems. My empathy is present even without the thought of it. I am encouraged when I am trying harder to understand things. I am satisfied when I help others, and I feel comfortable when I am learning more about a loved one. I will briefly discuss my community health track research. First of all, community health workers interact directly with their communities and address health concerns within diverse populations. The average salary in New York as of February 26, 2021 for a community health worker is $45,403. It's important to note that community health workers do not provide direct medical care or training. I have a compassion for others and providing them with the help that they need in order to thrive. The CDC 2021 shares that working at the community level promotes healthy living, helps prevent diseases, and brings the greatest health benefits to the greater number of people in need. With empathy comes greater pattern recognition, and with greater pattern recognition comes greater intuition. DeSouza 2012 comments, with intuition, we are able to recognize the grimace of a friend and read subtle expressions that create awareness of discomfort or pain. This is said on page 73. This is especially useful in a healthcare setting, as I am best able to understand how a patient is feeling and if the patient is confused by what I am saying through nonverbal and verbal cues. There is great inequity in the field of healthcare, and I would like to provide the best care possible and guide patients through that maze. With a bachelor's degree in community health science, I can work as a health coach, community health worker, or a community outreach specialist. As a health coach, for example, I would help individuals become happier and healthier. With empathy, I can understand where they are coming from and how they feel in an attempt to frame where they will be and how to get there. A master's in community health will allow me to become a public health researcher, health policy analyst, research program manager, or a health policy analyst. Community healthcare workers assist individuals and communities to adopt healthy behaviors and may provide information on available resources, social support, and informal counseling. Now I will move to discussing Family and Human Development track. The Family and Human Development Bachelor's Program at ASU focuses on the well-being of children, youth, and families. Students that study family and human development examine societal issues and their impacts on the family. This degree offers preparation for future graduate work in counseling, social work, or health-related professions. The profession of particular interest to me within the Family and Human Development track is a guidance counselor. I am very accepting of other people and wish them happiness and comfort throughout their life. I believe it to be my duty to ensure school is a safe environment for all learners. This profession allows me to help students develop plans and strategies to best achieve their goals. I've thoroughly enjoyed taking courses from the Family and Human Development track. Previously, I took EDU304, which was Understanding Development Throughout the Lifespan, FAS 301, and FAS 331. All have expanded my worldview and allowed me to work towards efficient and fair communication within my interpersonal relationships. I will utilize all that these courses have taught me to be a better guidance counselor and support my students to the best of my ability. It brings me great joy to finally comprehend what I want to do with my life. My self-management skills are low, so I do need to work on those to plan towards my future and maintain my motivation to reach my goals. I have full faith that with hard work, this will guarantee a positive outcome for me. The average salary for a guidance counselor, according to ASU's Family and Human Development degree track website, is $55,410. Growth in this career track is 12.6% in the past few years, which is remarkable. When considering the essential traits of a school counselor, some come to mind very strongly. Communication, empathy, strong assessment skills, and organization. These are essential in many fields, but I think when considering a school counselor, You really want to understand how you are communicating and how your communication can affect others throughout your microsystem and even on the macro level. I conducted an interview with my sister-in-law, Stephanie Daya, who is a school psychologist in Miami-Dade Public School. And during this interview, she educated me on a range of responsibilities that she has at her current workplace. Stephanie Daya conducts psychoeducational evaluations, consults with teachers regarding students displaying problematic behaviors in the classroom, and completes RTI meetings to discuss appropriate interventions for students with academic and behavioral difficulties. Essential traits of a school psychologist are empathy, organization, patience, ethics, and critical thinking. I will now share with you the responsibilities of a school psychologist. These responsibilities include data collection and analysis, assessment, progress tracking, psychoeducational consultation, academic mental health and behavioral interventions, instructional support, special education services, crisis preparedness, response and recovery, and lastly, family-school community collaboration. Benchmark 360-degree assessment listed 6 essential competencies that are present across career paths. These competencies include building collaborative relationships, taking initiative, leading employees, participative management, change management, and strategic perspective. Out of 16 leadership competencies in the Benchmark 360-degree assessment, the same 6 rose to the top as most needed in every industry. Of these 6 competencies, bosses in each industry surveyed for this assessment listed taking initiative as the most effective competency of a leader. It is important to note that in many organizations, individuals are promoted to leaders due to their own individual contributions being successful. As such, they may lack the skills that enable them to build collaborative relationships within the organization. I think that throughout one's professional career, there needs to be moments of meditation and consideration of, am I progressing? What are my shortcomings within my own professional life? And how can I work from there? As an educational psychologist, I wish to make the pursuit of learning very fun and very accessible for a classroom of diverse learners. In turn, I think that will promote a positive learning environment and association with the learning process. One of the tools that I was introduced to through Module 4's learning was Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle allows teachers to engage every student through video learning. I see this as really useful, especially in the time of coronavirus, where most schools are facing shutdowns and reopenings, and there's just all this turmoil and confusion. It's hard to engage students, especially young ones, in their home environment, and I think Edpuzzle would be beneficial for many school districts to adapt. More than 65% of learners are visual learners, and 95% of students watch YouTube videos regularly. Edpuzzle introduces students to the concept of self-paced learning. It's free to use for both students and teachers alike, and it is utilized by more than 50% of U.S. schools, which is a shocking statistic, as someone who is unfamiliar with such a phenomenal tool that I wish I knew about. As a school psychologist, I am a problem solver. I wish to collaborate with teachers and students alike to produce the best results within the classroom. Learning should be fun, and Edpuzzle allows learning to be conducted in a fun, collaborative, virtual manner. It also increases accessibility for learning opportunities. Students can go back to particular video lessons and play them as many times as necessary to increase their comprehension. As teachers and educational psychologists, we may have access within the teacher dashboard to viewing how many times a learner accessed the information, how long a learner stalled at specific portions of the program, and if we see a student taking long to respond to a question, we can interject digitally and kind of like just message the student to spitball ideas and get this learning generation going. This also can lead to students being more comfortable and having more access to us as educators. We can work with multiple students at the same time. It's really remarkable. Stacy Rosham from the Bullis School in Washington, D.C. recommended Edpuzzle and shares, all homework is watched through Edpuzzle. By reviewing the analytics provided, I have a sense of how to construct instruction personalized in each of my classes before students even walk into the room. I know who I need to spend a bit more time with and who I might have to call on to lead a small group discussion. Mary Jo Mata 2016 notes that Pear Deck is a communication platform allowing teachers to create interactive assessments and presentations that students can follow along using their devices. It features active learning techniques to engage students through discussion and activities. There are pre-made prompts that can be used at any point throughout the academic day. Pear Deck has a teacher dashboard that allows teachers to see students' responses immediately, and thus they are able to provide real-time insight and interject. Teachers can anonymously share student responses to the front console to generate conversation in the classroom. This allows the quieter learners to participate in the classroom comfortably. Teachers can observe if a student is stuck by how much time the student is spending on a question. They can message the student with ideas and guide them in the right direction. This allows students who feel uncomfortable asking for help to receive help. As a school psychologist, I have to be optimistic, and I have to show students how to maintain optimism throughout the lifespan. DeSouza 2011 notes, optimists see temporary setbacks as just temporary versus pessimists see these setbacks as a permanent state. I think it goes along with this notion of emotions as temporary versus permanent as well. If we can get our students to view these blimps of time where things aren't going their way as just a small portion of their life, then they will be able to succeed instead of dwelling on that one moment where they are not doing well. DeSouza 2011 notes pessimists as thinking everything they touch turns to coal, while optimists believe everything they touch can be turned into gold. I think there has to be some kind of in-between looking at this example. I think it's important to be realistic of what moment you're in and just address it as is without looking at it in superlatives, but I'm just one of many opinions. Optimists are resilient because they hold themselves accountable, and as such, they don't dwell in anguish. So, an optimist wouldn't look at something happening as personal. They'd take it objectively and try to move forward. And that is what I want to do and encourage my learners to do. It doesn't matter if I'm having difficulty with a case, I need to think critically and keep moving. Focus on the end goal. DeSosa 2011 notes that mistakes should be viewed as a mistake, and we should do retakes. In movie productions, you're looking at the final product, but when you think about it, that director must have said redo a million times to get to that beautiful moment that you're at and absorbing in the end product. Let's look at life the same way. Mistakes shouldn't just be lost opportunities. Let's look at them as learning opportunities and grow from them and compare them to other events in life and contrast and really grasp what is happening and how it happened. Mistakes are crucial learning opportunities throughout the lifespan. They allow us to accept situations as is and learn new ways to respond to them without dwelling. My personal motivation for pursuing educational psychology is my own experience with the educational system. I remember always spending a significant amount of time studying while all my friends were playing in the street, having fun. I had to study that much harder to get to the same place that they were at studying in 30 minutes. This was due to my slow processing speed. Unbeknownst to me, I did not receive a formal diagnosis of ADHD and slow processing speed until sophomore year of college. When I was expressing my despair to my educational psychologist, she shared with me that the reason why I was able to make it this far was my perseverance, but as the level of intensity of information got significantly harder, I could not keep up anymore. I could not compromise through this hard, or not compromise, but rather make up for it with long hours. I couldn't do that anymore. ADHD is still presumed to be a male disorder. As such, it's underreported in female students, and as such, there is a lack of equity in academia. I was in a class, I recall, in middle school in 8th grade with a learning specialist who spent a significant amount of time with the boys in the classroom and never really met with me to see how I was doing with the information. This is yet again another example of a massive failure in the educational system. There are people slipping through the gaps that honestly could have been really easily reported, like myself. Stefano Trojani notes that the ultimate attribute of a leader is capacity to listen, to understand, and to feel the needs, fears, and expectations of every team member. This is also very applicable in the field of educational psychology. I want to understand my students and increase their internal rationale to succeed. My potential is fueled through my creativity and my interest in keeping up to date with the latest studies in psychology. I wish to develop inventive learning models to increase student participation within the classroom and also increase their likability of learning as a whole. I'm passionate about learning and I'm passionate about helping others, and I think that all leaders should have these capacities within them. When considering educational leaders, there are 3 that come into mind, especially in the field of educational psychology. I would like to start with the more recent one, E.D. Hirsch Jr. He is a literary critic and educator, and he is best known for his novel Cultural Literacy: What Every American Needs to Know, that was published in 1987. He really changed our view of child-centered education. He concluded that many American students lacked basic knowledge of cultural terms and concepts that are essential for academic achievement. Cultural literacy is a term coined by Dr. Hirsch. Cultural literacy involves reading comprehension and requires not just formal decoding skills, but also wide-ranging background knowledge. The child-centered movement is an anti-curriculum movement. It took place from 1930 to 1950s. Full impact was recognized around possibly 1962. There has been a great decline in how American students are performing on standardized testings, and an increase in our achievement gap. The United States ranks 21st out of 30 countries in the scientific literacy of 15-year-olds, Hirsch wrote in his cultural literacy novel, as I've touched upon in my educational leader presentation. I think this is clearly a problem with our educational system, and we have to rethink how we are teaching our students. Now I will move on to Edward Lee Thorndike, who is believed to be the father of educational psychology. Edward Lee Thorndike is most known for his law of effect. The law of effect believes that rewarded behaviors become more frequent. This is one of the most important principles in our educational system. His work put the study of learning and education on the same grounds as the study of science. This was a turning point for science as it introduced the concept of science of learning. But even before him, I look at Jean Piaget, who is a renowned psychologist known for his work on child developmental studies. He is best known for his theory of cognitive development. Piaget believed that children think differently than adults think. His work was critical for the development of developmental psychology. He is one of the pioneers of constructivist learning. Constructivist learning suggests that we actively construct our knowledge and work through our interactions with idea formulation and learning. And experiences, rather. I've learned about him countless times throughout my educational studies career. Now, you might be curious how I will implement empathy and advocacy as a school psychologist, and I will be glad to tell you. I can do this by frequently asking how students feel about the current learning strategies in place, as well as their supports. If the support is not working, it's important that I hear that from the student, as well as by analyzing their recent feedback and results on quizzes and homeworks, etc. These daily check-ins should also involve check-ins on how their personal life is going, as well as their educational experiences. I want to know if there is anything that could potentially leave them feeling dissatisfied and, as such, hindering their performance in school. Asking my students if they can consider any solutions or recurring problems increases collaborative efforts in their learning experience between myself and them, the learner, as well as with their teacher, and allows students to critically think as well. Critical thinking is essential, especially as you get through higher education. It's important to really frame yourself in context and consider all possible causes when trying to figure out the solution to a problem. Advocacy through increasing student education of resources is how I will practice advocacy. I want my students to know all of the resources that may be beneficial to them and how to access them. Granville de Sousa 2011 notes that a noble goal is a brief, inspiring statement of enduring purpose for all individuals. It can be something that gives us a sense of gratification beyond material gains. When I consider my life, I want to know that I've helped the most people that I could have possibly helped. I don't want to look back with regret that I did not take any chance, any opportunity to change someone's life for the better. I want to be that force in someone's life that inspires them to keep reaching for the stars and to keep jumping and so feverishly grasping at the idea of anything that inspires them. There have been few figures like this for me, but most of my educational leaders had these noble goals that were universally the same of wanting to help others. I hope that I can take this into consideration when becoming an educational psychologist. I know that there is a high burnout rate, but I think it's important to practice meditation and understand that, yes, I am one educational psychologist who is subject to providing attention to 1,500 plus students, but these students need me and I have to rise to the occasion and I have to support them every step of the way, and that is what I'll do. There is no time to be tired. I need to show my passion and put it into output and help as many people as possible.